Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy, Iceman and Bob, Tech and Gaming. I'm here today to welcome you all to my live stream, to my show. And what we're going to talk about today is the 2024 TV lineup. Now, some of the information has already leaked or been put out. And of course, we're going to see more as CES is currently in motion right now, and it will continue basically through this week. We're going to find out more specifics. There may be some information that won't get released. Again, we'll find out soon enough. But what I do want to talk to you all about is what we do know right now. And what we currently do know is going to be discussed, and I'm going to give you all some details and talk to you about what TVs I would recommend thus far, at least in terms of brands and maybe certain models or at least technology types. And then whether you should pick up a 2023 model that will be on discount on sale or get a 2024 model. So please let me know how you feel about what we're going to discuss in the live chat. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and kick the party off with Sony. Okay. Oftentimes, this has been the second year, and Sony has not attended CES. Now, Sony has their own structure and their reasoning behind it. Many people have said that it was based upon them not doing well financially, but Sony is a big company. I mean, just between the PlayStation alone, let alone Sony Pictures, just that alone, let alone going in other divisions, they're set, they're good. In their TV space, they have a lot of other technology that they are currently trying to show and display. So they would be competing with themselves. To make a long story short, it's better use for them to have a Sony event, which they're going to have coming up this month, supposedly on the 8th. So we'll see if the date and everything pans out. But nonetheless, this is what Sony did last year. They seem to be doing their own thing, and it works because they're focused on premium. And that's what many of you tout when you and myself, we purchase Sony television sets, let alone other products. It is that premium that we're getting and paying into. So with that being said, we're going to talk about Sony. But before we do, I have to add to make sure that if you're here, please like, comment, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Feel free to share this video as well as all of my other videos. For those of you that don't know, I am not just a TV reviewer. I am or should we say an enthusiast calibrator, okay? So I like to go in and take a look at certain things when it comes to television sets and how to make the image quality better and see if that's even possible. With that being said, let's get into the information with Sony. So if we take a look with Sony, let me get this on the screen for you all. Okay. The main thing here with Sony is they're essentially going to mini LED. All right. That's the biggest thing that I want to talk about. If you were expecting in 2024 for Sony to push the envelope in terms of their OLED tech, and honestly, while we're on the subject of OLED, it's not going to happen really with any of the brands unless they surprise us. I think there may be a mention of potential future OLED tech that may come in, say, 2025 or 2026. But in terms of this year in 2024, there doesn't seem to be a third generation QD OLED panel tech or some other iteration of WRGB panel tech. So it looks like everything is going to stay the same there. And in that case, we would have to look at the individual brands processing. That would be the only upgrade, so to speak, in terms of that. With that being said, though, back to Sony. Sony's focus is going to be mini LED. Now, some people feel that that is a letdown. They're like, oh, Sony's only going in mini LED after they had the A95L, King of TVs, and you had the A95K with the first generation quantum dot OLED panel. Why would they go this direction? Well, I'm going to say one thing. Sony is going the direction of mini LED also because of the new mastering monitor. Again, back to that Sony Pictures thing, and this is what I was talking about. When you have a business, and I'm a business owner, and what I do here on YouTube, this is a business. My YouTube channel is a business. So once again, thank you all for your support. You don't have to be here, so I appreciate that. With that being said, Sony has a mastering monitor that puts out a great deal of the content that you, as well as myself, enjoy. So when it comes to that, everything is going to be mastered based upon the new monitors. Well, previously we had the 1000 nit limitations. Now with the new mastering monitors, we have 4000 nits. And so you're going to see a shift similar to what Sony did with the PlayStation. Sony dropped support for the PS4, and in the gaming area, and I'm jumping on a little, you could say, off the subject area, but it's still related to Sony. When it comes to the gaming aspect, a lot of the imagery that we got, a lot of the technological advances that we could partake of was limited on the PS5 because Sony kept catering to support the PS4. That would be a similar conversation, I could say, when it comes to the film and pictures that we're going to watch. So now that Sony has new mastering monitor technology capable of 4000 nits, they're going to ship their televisions as sorts. And what we know is that currently the second gen QD OLED panel that Samsung Display has created is only essentially capable of 2000 nits. It may be able to hit a little over, give or take, but essentially 2000 nits. When it comes to mini LED technology, it can get much, much, much brighter. And we already have TVs that have claimed, quote unquote, maybe in vivid or some outrageous mode, they can hit 4000 nits, 5000 nits, etc., etc. So Sony is catering to give you that image quality as close to the mastering monitor. And in a long-term strategy, I think it's a smart move. I think it's a smart move because eventually you're going to have the OLED panel tech increase, maybe with blue phosphorus OLED or some other iteration of MLA. And then we would get closer to that 4000 nits with OLED, and then Sony can adopt that technology. So they're going mini LED. For those of you that love large picture sizes, large screen sizes, especially if you want to go 83 and up, I do know they have OLEDs in that 83 category, especially the A80K, or should we say A80L rather. I'm taking a step back, but hey, you know, we can all reflect on the past. It's still Sony. The point that I'm making is that is where they're going. So let's take a look at this information very quickly here. They're moving to 5000 mini LED dimming zones, okay? This is what they're doing. And remember, just like on the 2023 Sony mini LED models, they had less dimming zones, but between their XR processor, it knew what to do with less. Sometimes you don't need as much. If you use what you have, you can take lemons and make lemonade. And that's exactly what Sony did. So they're going to do that, improve the power ratings, and increase the picture quality, which we all can enjoy. So this is where Sony is essentially going. Again, for you LCD, mini LED lovers, this is going to be excellent. I'm sure their lineup will have some iterations of this type of technology. They're just stepping up the wheel. So they're reinventing the wheel, so to speak. They're having a whole new processor. If you look at it here, right here, it says in 2024, Sony will transition to a new 22-bit mini LED driver. Okay, it's a 10-bit current plus a 12-bit PWM. Okay, while the LCD panel remains 10-bit. Okay, the company claims this driver is the world's smallest, enabling incorporation of more dimming zones. So that's how Sony's going to improve the dimming zones. And I know a lot of times I see in the comment sections of a lot of videos and forums, a lot of people say, you know, Sony's expensive because they have to buy their SoC from MediaTek, and they're getting their panels from Samsung Display and LG Display, and they're outsourcing and a conglomerate of sorts of all these other technologies. But we forget Sony does know how to produce technology as well. And this is what we're seeing. And I think this is a great move for Sony. I like this because with them implementing this in their mini LED categories, this is something that I can see them staying one step or two steps, however many steps you would like to argue, ahead of the other brands in competition. And it's something that I think the other brands are going to have to follow suit and adopt on their TVs. Okay. So we don't know exactly how many dimming zones, at least as of now. Maybe this will get leaked and released, but it's going to have more zones than the equivalent Z9D, okay, which raised the standards back in the day. So this is going to be excellent. This is a screen image of what we can expect to see. I kind of have the cursor going around it. I think it's going to look great. I still like mini LED. For me, being an OLED lover, there's just some of those particular scenes and times where it just pops. Like there's that extra brightness you get with mini LED at times of like explosions and fires and certain scenes that you just don't get with OLED. Even with all the fantastic infinite contrast and everything, there's something about mini LED that hits a sweet spot. And speaking of sweet spot, a lot of people are not concerned with burning when it comes to mini LED. So essentially, this is what is going to be. They say that the actual model, hopefully we'll get some CES coverage, will be 1.5% brighter, or 1.5 times brighter rather, because 1.5% is not much, but it'd be 1.5 or 1.5 times brighter than what many people have seen in the Tokyo demo. And they were blown away by the few people that were allowed to go there. I know Caleb Dennison, I know my boy Caleb, he was able to go there, and there was a few other people, John Archer, I can't remember offhand, but there was a few industry people that were able to go there and take a look at it, right? So it's still a reduction in energy usage as well, which is great, especially for people in the EU, right? Here in America, it might not be such a big deal, but in the EU, that was a big issue why 8K went away. It was the power usage. So Sony is paying attention to all of this, and I think across the board, this is going to be great. We have yet to see. You can kind of look at the difference right here. If you look at this, this is from the X95K. This is from 2022, okay? You can kind of see the difference on how much pop, how much more color, how much better it looks, all right? You could just get an idea. Now, this is not the exact thing, but you can see the reduction of blooming. You notice over here on the left, you can see all of this blooming right here. Like I'm move the cursor around. Look at all that blooming. You come over here and see how it has even be moved. The text looks faded. Now, you come over here, it's a lot less blooming. You even seem to see some separation here in between 4K and be moved, and the text definition is a lot better. So they're going to win in this category, and I think this is really great, okay? So that's essentially where Sony's going. If you're looking for their OLEDs, their A80M, I'm not sure if the A95L is going to be called the A95M. It probably won't if it follows the footsteps of the A90J, where the A90J name continued to roll over. We'll just see what's what. And again, I talked about this before, and I'm going to say it again. That's why the A95L was so impactful. It was a 2024 TV released in 2023. I know many people said the date was late, but again, it was a 2024 TV released in 2023. So this technology is going to stand firm. What I'm going to recommend and suggest for Sony before I move on to any other brands is that if you're interested as it currently stands, and this could change based upon the actual specs, the actual presentation of these TVs, and I'm going to do the best that I can this year to get my hands on these TVs. I will get my hands on them. I will do my best to calibrate them and give you all some presentation and suggestions and recommendations for TV watching, streaming, gaming, all of those categories, because I'm also a gamer. So Sony, if you're watching, if you're listening, I'm open to receiving a review set. Hey, just putting it out there, you know. You can't receive if you don't ask. So I'm putting that out there. What my recommendation will be for you, if you want to go OLED, you most likely will have to stick OLED. If you're familiar with OLED and you've been in that camp, it's going to be hard to make that transition into mini LED, especially if this is your primary television. Now, if this is a second TV in your home or your place or what have you, a third or what have you, then maybe you can go and spread the technology like that. Now, I have OLED in my house. I have WRGB, I have QD OLED, I've got LCD and mini LED in my house, as well as gaming monitors and computer monitor screens and all of that. So for me and my household, it's not that big of a deal. I still like mini LED. It has its perks. It does have its perks, but there are also cons. So if you're in the OLED camp, I would suggest seeing what Sony's going to do for, if you haven't purchased by now, if you're not in a dire need of a new OLED, I would get the A80M because it's going to have the A95L gaming features and some other menu and software updates as well. Plus, you'll get longer support depending on the price. We'll have to see what the actual pricing is. I mean, if push comes to shove, then you can get an A80L, all right? Especially if you need a larger size than 55, 65, or 77. All right, you can't go wrong with that. Obviously, the A95L is going to, hands down, be it. It's going to have everything that all the other TVs are going to have, and then some, and you get the QD OLED technology. So Sony's still adopting that. I don't suspect much changes. The only thing maybe we can look at is the HDMI ports. Maybe we'll get 4 2.1 ports as opposed to the 2 that we have. We'll see. But outside of that, my recommendation would be A95L, whether it's last year's or this year's. Depending on your size, needs, and requirements, do not sleep on the A80M that is soon to be released or the A80L. I recommend that. If you are with the mini LED camp, you need to stay tuned for all the Sony models because they're probably going to roll this technology. I suspect maybe they may not all be on the same tier, but I suspect different levels of that Sony picture quality. And perhaps maybe they'll roll it across all their mini LED models. I mean, we don't know yet. We'll have to wait and see what Sony's going to say. But if you're a mini LED consumer, then you might want to stay tuned for that. Okay, that's my recommendations as it currently stands. I can't really speak on price. You know, hey, Sony, most people that I know buy Sonys, they plan on keeping their TVs for a while and they're generally happy with them. Obviously, a product is a product. I don't care who it is. We can have issues, but for the most part, you're generally a satisfied customer. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to Samsung. Okay, so let's get over into Samsung. Now, what I find interesting in 2024 versus 2023 was last year, and it really started in 2022 with the release of the S95B. Okay, the market, there was talks about a QD OLED TV coming out, say it was more so around September, October of 2022. And then all of a sudden, boom, right in March, we got surprised. And that's March of 2022. We got surprised with the S95B. And that TV to me will always be special because despite its shortcomings, it actually caused all the manufacturers and brands to step their game up. And that's something that we have to always reflect on. If it wasn't for the S95B, we wouldn't have had an A95K from Sony. We wouldn't have the A95L from Sony. We would not even have the G3 with MLA technology and also the G4 that will soon come out this year in 2024. So we have to thank Samsung Display, at least for releasing that particular technology. And so what I believe is going on is a similar thing where we got a lot of information last year in 2023. This is coming out. This is what's going to have, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously some information is going to get released after the CES coverage. What I suspect this year is that Samsung is going to improve what they already have. And that seems to be the name of the game with all of these TVs. It's not so much releasing new technology, but improving the technology that they currently have, which is a win for all of us as consumers, right? So if we go through this article here, it says Samsung is expected to launch their TV lineup at CES, which is currently going on. We know that many models have already linked. Okay. Obviously, we know the Samsung, the 95D. We're going to have the S90D. Again, we were suspecting that will be the name iteration. It's pretty easy now. I mean, come on, isn't it pretty easy to figure out what the name iterations are? But nonetheless, it's most likely the S95C is going to be now the S95D, and same thing, the S90C will now be the S90D. Okay, now what will be interesting is to see if there's going to be any technological separation between the two models, because last year with the S90C, it was told that, and we pretty much confirmed this, that we had to wait at least maybe till later on in the year if you're getting a 55 or 65, but for sure the 77 model was the recommended brand, recommended size, and recommended TV to get in terms of the S90C, because it had the second gen panel. Well, now that we're automatically in a second year of the second gen panel, all the sizes of the S90D is going to have that. So I didn't hear many complaints about build quality either with the S90C. From the most part of what I've seen on forums and just consumer feedback and myself, many people were happy with the build quality of the S90C. So what I would like to see, and what will be interesting, is to see what type of separation besides the one connect box of the S95C they had, which now will be the S95D. Will it be a bigger separation or not? Either way, we will find this out, but let's go through this article, okay? So obviously we know the S95D is going to have a 55, 65, and 77. There is no 83 or 80 whatever size QD OLED panels for any brands right now. It is what it is. You have to go WRGB if you want OLED. All right. It's going to be pretty similar. Same thing. A bright panel. We'll have yet to see all of this. 144 hertz. Perhaps they're going to refresh, pun intended, the 144 hertz dropout issue. All right. Still 4 HDMI 2.1 ports. Again, I have to see, and we'll have to see what the difference is going to be between the two. So the biggest thing is probably going to be the processor. We'll have yet to see what Samsung is going to do. There hasn't been any mention of their processors and what exactly they're going to entail, but I'm pretty sure they're going to entail some type of low bit upscaling improvements, because that was a big complaint with Samsung. So I'm pretty sure they're going to tweak or come out with a new processor in that area. Maybe a few other things, motion. They're going to definitely step up in that category. And it's a win-win for consumers if you like Samsung and you like that Samsung look, but you just wanted a little bit more in quality. I am very hopeful and excited to see Samsung answer the call. What they are also going to do is, in terms of their QLED and Neo QLED technology, they're going to also step up in that game. Okay, they're going to have 4K and 8K models. Samsung is still holding on to that front. All right. You're going to have the QN85D, the QN90D, and the QN95D. All right, they're all going to have 4K V8 panels. They're all going to be mini LED. They're all going to have 120 hertz refresh rates, okay? So you're going to find those in 55, 65, 75, and 85-inch variants. You'll also have at least a 98-inch. After all, Samsung wants to also hold on to that space and not just let Hisense or TCL or even Sony take over in that area, all right? You're also going to see a QN800D. That's going to be their 8K TV. I suspect it's going to look fantastic if they improve the processor. You'll find that in 65, 75, and 85 inches, okay? And Samsung, if you're listening as well, feel free to send me a review model. I've talked a lot about your brands, and I will continue to do so. Whether Samsung or any of these brands, while I'm on the subject, sends me a model or a television to review, I'm still going to do the best that I can to get my hands on these TVs myself. Obviously, I'm not going to get my hands on every single one. I'll try the best that I can, but I'm going to review the technology. I'm going to calibrate the technology, and I'm going to do my usual comparisons that you all expect to see when it comes to regular over the air and streaming television and movie watching, as well as gaming. Okay. So Samsung also is going to have their 800 or DU800 and DU8500 Crystal UK 4K TVs. A lot of people buy these TVs, by the way. These are the TVs that you see in a lot of hotels and bars and restaurants and a lot of places that are out in the public. And many people just say, hey, I want a Samsung TV, and they'll go buy it. The sizes range from 43 to 75 inches. They're most likely going to be IPS. Some of them may be VA panel TVs. It just depends. They're going to have the edge backlight, as you can expect, and they're going to have the ultra high definition range. The price tags are going to be very cheap. The CU8000, it's going to be like $349 for the 43-inch model. And then the 85-inch model will be basically $1,200. So you can expect some very reasonable things here from Samsung. And again, the biggest thing to see is their processors. So with that being said, let's go ahead and move on. Or should I say what my recommendations are before we move on? If you are familiar with the S90C, the S95C, even the S95B, the whole QD OLED panel tech, keep your eyes peeled for what's to come in the S95D and the S90C. I highly suspect Samsung, and we're going to see it, is going to improve their image processing when it comes to low bit, just content in general. I don't care if it's streaming or whatever. That was the biggest category that Sony pulled ahead with. And if Samsung wants to stay in close competition, they're going to have to do something to match it. So I expect an improvement there. That's going to translate into other areas that will translate into motion, all types of things, upscaling, you name it, gaming, it's going to be there. So if you haven't bought a Samsung TV and you're looking forward to it, I would hold off if you can for the S95D as well as the S90D. We're going to see, is it just going to be the one connect box? And if that's the case, I would just basically suggest, unless there's going to be some radical difference between the two, because what's interesting to me is Samsung is seeming more like LG when it comes to the S90 and the S95 series comparisons. When I say more like LG, it was a time when LG had their C models and their G models very similar. One might be a little brighter, one might have a little bit this or that, but nonetheless, they were very close. And so I suspect the same thing is going to apply when it comes to Samsung this time around. We have yet to see, and once these updates come out, I will cover it and I will update any recommendations or suggestions. But I would try to hold off unless you have to have a TV now. I mean, the S90C is still excellent. S95C is also still excellent, especially if you're a gamer. Obviously, we had the 144 hertz dropout issues, but again, hopefully they can rectify that. Nonetheless, if you can hold out, most likely around March, Samsung will probably drop one or two or whatever of these models. They usually come out very early. And on that note, Samsung is quick to discount their TVs early as well. So that's something to keep in mind. We have yet to see, and I will report on updates. So let's move on to LG, since I spoke of LG. All right, the biggest thing with LG is LG has announced that they have improved their processor. Their famous Alpha chip is now the A11, okay? And their focus is going to be on AI. AI was a big talk of 2023, and it's going to continue to be a big talk. So they're focusing on that. They were, in my opinion, not too far behind Sony when it comes to processing. Many people would say in the order of processing, it would be Sony, then it would be LG, and then it would be Samsung. And there's some areas or categories where maybe one may pull ahead over the other, but nonetheless, that is the general consensus of processing order. Well, LG wants to change that. So they have a new alpha chipset, as I mentioned. Again, it's called the A11. Now, all models are not going to get the A11. Some of them are going to have the A9, which has already been out, and the A8 processors, okay? I still suspect, even though they have the older processors, it probably still will be some type of improvements across the board than previous years. It's got to be something maybe they'll tweak and give a little special sauce to. I just suspect that it just kind of comes with time. You perfect it, even though it's the exact same thing. It's just a little bit more, a little bit better. So it may not be significantly noticeable if you put them side by side. Maybe you may see something, but I suspect that for everything outside of the A11. Obviously, the A11 chip is brand new, and we have yet to see. So we go through this article here. LG is also expanding its OLED lineup to include the two new models, which are the G4 and the M4. Interesting how they said expanding its OLED lineup to include two models, and they didn't include the C4. Yet we know LG has the C4. I find that very interesting. With that being said, the G4 and the M4 are almost going to be exactly the same, but there is one major thing that separates them. I'm going to explain what that is in just a second, okay? Both the G4 and the M4 will have the A11 processor, okay? LG is claiming, let me highlight this, okay? LG is claiming nearly 70% improvement in graphic performance in tandem with 30% better processing speeds, okay, according to LG's calculations. Now, we will get our hands on these TVs and we will test this out and see for ourselves. But if any of this sticks, 70% improvement in graphic performance, that definitely will put it right there in alignment with Sony, at least in alignment with the A95L. And that's what I'm suspecting is going to be very, very close. Now, obviously, LG is not using a QD OLED panel, so you do have that separation. Outside of that separation, WRGB is tried, tested, and true. You cannot go wrong with WRGB OLED. It's still going to be impactful. It's still going to have infinite contrast, and it gives you that presentation that you expect. It's just nice and clean, nice and natural, and that's what LG is known for. So we have yet to see. We will test it, but if they hold true to this on the G4 and the M4, we might have a winner on our hands, okay? Also, you can see here, leveraging AI, the A11 powered models, which are the G4 and M4, will sport improved upscaling. This is what Sony pulled ahead with. Sony won because of when you watch regular TV and streaming, they had the upscaling. That's what Sony's known for. You watch lower resolution content, lower bit content, Sony upscales it the best. I suspect LG is already coming out the gate with this particular weapon, and if it does what we're hoping it does, we can only hope. We'll find out in actual practice. But in theory, if it does what it does, it's gonna be awesome, okay? It's gonna be amazing. It can definitely be a win for LG. It will improve upscaling, color refinement, so the colors will look even better, and dynamic brightness. So it's gonna improve the brightness just by the processor alone for MLA. And by the way, the G4 and the M4 will have MLA, okay? They also have AI Sound Pro. It's going to improve their virtual 11.1.12 surround sound. They're claiming impeccable audio quality. We'll have to see. It's also going to improve Dolby Vision and Atmos, or they will provide that on all models, okay? So they also have their QNED 99T model. That's something that you want to take a look at. They're going to improve the user interface. They're also going to just overall improve the experience, right? They're going to have the WebOS dynamic cue card, better levels of personalization, and screen navigation. So that is the user interface that people like to use, and it's going to make that experience better. Okay. They're also getting built-in virtual surround sound speakers as well. So we'll have to test that out and see what they sound like. But it's a win, right? I know oftentimes we only talk about the flagship side of things, but you got to consider all areas when it comes to a particular brand, because not everyone goes flagship or everyone needs to replace or upgrade their flagship model. That may not be a particular target for their purchase. So anyway, we will find out what's what. Again, they're here. Again, the M4 is going to be the big talk. This is what everyone's going to be talking about, more so than the G4. But the G4 will come up in conversation with the M4. Every time you hear the mention of the M4, you're going to hear people say the G4. Watch, they're going to go hand in hand like white on rice. With that being said, here's what the M4 is going to be, all right? Basically, besides the A11 processor, and it shares practically all of its core features of the G4. So I will say, before I can continue here, one difference may be that the G4 may be cheaper price-wise than the M4. We have yet to see what the price is going to be. We have to stay tuned for that. We just don't know. But that may be a deciding factor. And what it looks like to me, let me just throw this into the conversation while I'm on the subject. It seems to me like the G4 is taking the spot as the C4, and the M4 is taking the spot as the G4 would be. Like the G series normally is like the M series now, and the G series is like the C series now. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. Let me know what you think in the comment section, but that's what it appears to me. All right. With this being said, they're going to have what's called Zero Connect. Okay. This essentially makes the M4 a wireless TV. Okay. LG claims it is the world's first TV with wireless video and audio transmission at 4K at 144 hertz. So this is what I would like to see. I'm very interested in seeing how well this works. I would like to see if there's any interference, how much range of separation from the actual screen. Can you have the wireless device in terms of transmission? We'll get into all of that. Other people are going to get into that. I would like to see that, but that can give us as consumers a lot of options here. And I think it's a great thing if they can hold true at 144 hertz with 4K. Okay. You're going to find the G-Sync, FreeSync on the screen. You're going to have multi-view. Okay. That's going to make this a dreamer's game come true, as they say, because they're going to have the 144 hertz that they did not have on the G3 and the C3 models, or any of their models rather, for 2023. So if that is true, and let's say if Samsung has any issues with their 144 hertz dropouts, but it works reliably, that could be a win. You know, LG can get a lot of gamers on it front. It's not going to apply to you if you're not gamers. You're not going to care about 144 hertz or even 120 hertz, if that matter, if you're not a gamer. This applies to gamers only. So my gamers know, especially my PC gamers out there, right? And I game on all platforms: mobile, PC, Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, other platforms I'm not even thinking about. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a win for gamers if this works the way we think it's going to work. Okay. You're going to find the M4 in a 65-inch model. Okay. And it's built upon LG's one wall design. So it's going to be very easy to fit in any household. Okay. So you're also going to find the M4 OLED TV sizes will be 97-inch, 83-inch, 77, and 65. I don't know if those exact sizes will apply to both the G4 and the M4. I suspect maybe it'll apply more so to the G4, but we'll see. And with this having MLA and this particular combination, I'm telling you, increasing the brightness even that much more and giving that more pop, because the G3 with MLA was brighter, in my opinion, than even the A95L, as well as the S95C when it comes to the white scenes. And that's what WRGB OLED does. Anything white, so if you watch sports, say hockey, or you're watching a snow scene or something like that, white definitely just, you know, it just popped. So this will be very exciting to see. I hope that it is what we suspect that it is. Again, the G4 is going to be almost the same thing. You just don't have the Zero Connect. I'm assuming that's similar to Samsung's One Connect box, but wireless, like a wireless version of it. It does have far field voice recognition and, again, brightness booster max. So we'll see how well this stuff works. This looks great. LG is claiming the same sizes: 97, 83, 77, 65, and 55. So if they're bringing all this with the M4 and G4 and these sizes, it's a win. Now, as far as the C4, the C4 is not really an upgrade. Unfortunately, it's going to be pretty much just a new version of the same old thing. Not to say that that's a bad thing, but the C4 is going to be using the A9 processor that we're already familiar with, okay? You have to go to the G4 or M4 to get the A11 processor, all right? The C4 will have an 83-inch size. It will go down to 42-inch size. I know a lot of people say 48 sizes is perfect and 48-inch, but me as a gamer, I game on a 42-inch C2, right? It's just the perfect size for me because 48 is a little bit too large for my side-by-side setup. I mean, I can do it all day long. And some of you, depending on your computer spaces, 48 inches might be too large, right? I know that's what she said. Hopefully you got the joke. May not have been a good joke, but hey, I said it. It is what it is. Nonetheless, I think going down to 42 inches is great. And it's a size that is just right. It's just a step up from your 32-inch because I used to game on a 32-inch monitor. I've had smaller monitors and I still do have smaller monitors as we speak. But the point that I'm making is 42 is that sweet spot from the smaller size, but not too big. It's like just right, like the bowl of porridge with the whole Goldilocks and the Three Bears, fable. So anyway, this is essentially what we have to look for. Now, LG also has the B4. Okay. The B4 is like that entry level. It will have the A8 processor. It will have AI on it. It's only going to support up to 120 hertz. It'll be similar to the C4 in terms of having two screen multi-view, right? Again, you can get the B4 in 77, 65, 55, and 48. And then LG will also have their QNED series. Okay, we can't talk about their OLEDs without talking about their QNEDs. All right. They're going to have some upgrades. And I will say if you are a fan of LG's QNEDs, then they're going to have the A8 chip. So with that A8 processor, it's going to have 1.6 times faster processing and 2.3-fold better graphics fidelity. So it will definitely be an upgrade if you like their QNED lineup, okay? And that is their mini LED lineup for those of you that don't know. They also have a QNED 99T. It's going to be their 8K 120 hertz display. If you've seen LG's 8K last year, man, it was just stunning. The colors, the pop, it just looks great. So I just think this is a win. They're going to get some enhancements, like I said, AI Sound Pro, precision dimming, and so much more. So it's going to help to minimize blooming and give you the brightness that we expect. It's not going to be cheap. It's only going to be available in 75 and 86 inch sizes. Don't forget about the QNED 90T. All right, it'll be a 4K TV, but essentially going to get a lot of these same features. It's going to have great contrast levels, great grayscale, so that'll be good for calibration and a lot of things. It also has 20-bit accuracy for gradation. So again, as I mentioned, calibration. And then you have the QNED 85T and the QNED 80T. They're going to come with a color enhancement and advanced local dimming. So it will be some improvements there. They're going to be super sleek at 29 millimeters for to basically put that anywhere, right? They're going to be super thin, super sleek. We'll see all these at CES, hopefully, and in person. My recommendations for LG, if you are in the market right now and you like their mini LED technology, definitely wait for these particular models. I think that they were priced great last year, and I think that they will continuously be priced great for this year. We have yet to see, and it's a great alternative if you like the LG look, but you don't really care for Samsung or perhaps even Sony. You know, there's something to be said about getting those four HDMI 2.1 ports and a few other things that you may not get on one or two of the other brands. So stay tuned. We'll see exactly what they have. We'll be able to finalize that, but I think that's a great addition. If you're in the market for a new LG OLED, I would probably dial back on the G3. I believe the G3, especially as a gamer, didn't check all the boxes. If you do not game, the G3 did check all the boxes. But if you are a gamer at any percentage, I would keep my eyes peeled for the G4 as well as the M4. And we will have yet to see what the difference will be with that Zero Connect box. Does it provide any conveniences other than the Zero Connect box aspect of things in terms of what we're watching on the screen and what we're listening to? Is there any improvement in that area, or is it just a wall mounting thing? And speaking of which, the G4 as well as the M4, from my understanding, will come with a desktop stand in certain markets. And I would suspect those markets would be the United States as well as perhaps the EU. So those two markets, I know, I'm pretty positive it's definitely going to be here in the US. That's a great addition because many times when you buy the G series models and now the M series models for LG, you had to buy a stand. So you could take that cost out of the equation, take that argument out, at least if you're in those areas. If you're in other countries, we'll have yet to see what they're going to do and specifically which countries the stand will be included in. I say wait for either one of those two if you're in the market right now. I believe if you're a big wall mount individual, then perhaps the M4 is going to be the win for you. I know the G4 will definitely be wall mountable, but with that Zero Connect box, that's going to make wall mounting so easy. It did it with the S95C when Samsung had their One Connect box. So, and they've done it on other models. I think that's going to be a great thing. But what I suspect is the price is going to be higher. What's up, Adrian and Shell? I agree. Adrian says M4 will be very expensive, I think. I think it will. I really think that the price is going to be a lot higher. And as I said, I believe what LG is doing right now is that the M model now is what the G model used to be, and the G model is what the C model used to be. So that price savings that you would get and that very close in technology that you would get out of the C series, that's what the G model is going to bring. And then the M model will be what the G model used to be, just that extra oomph if you need it, that extra premium, that extra flagship. So, hey, we'll see. But if it does what it does and everything works, I think it's going to be a win. So I would hang tight for those models. That's my recommendation if you can. They're probably going to come out very soon. So I would not, unless you're under pressure to get a TV now, obviously, then you're going to have to get what you get. So the G3 is excellent. I mean, even for gaming with its shortcomings, it's still going to be an upgrade for most people. Every TV has its pros and cons. But if you can wait, I recommend to not buy a G3. A C3, really, I can't make that argument, unfortunately, because what Samsung offered with the S90C, you just get the QD OLED panel and for the price, and even what Sony was offering with their mini LED TVs, it's just and even their A80L, it's a hard buy with the C model. And I think it will continue to be a hard buy. I'm not sure who the C model will really be catered to at this point, but nonetheless, these are my recommendations for LG, and we have yet to see. LG, if you're watching and you're listening, I'm open to reviewing any model TVs that you would like to send me. Got to put it out there if you expect to receive. All right, so with that being said, let's talk about TCL and Hisense. So we're going to start with Hisense. We'll switch it up a little bit. All right. Hisense and I have to mention this to y'all. Okay, one thing about Hisense wants to go away from being a budget brand television. Okay, that was one thing that Hisense and TCL was known as. It was like, oh, well, get them if you want to have the budget, but you can't afford Sony, or you don't want Sony or Samsung or LG. That's not what they're going for now. They're moving up and they're doing the job successfully, especially in the large screen space. So if we go take a look here at what Hisense has, and again, it's not much talk about it, but essentially, and this is what I said, when I actually saw the Hisense UX, I was blown away by how good it looked. And the biggest thing that I would have wanted to do was get my hands on it and calibrate it. So any of those little imperfections or the color issues, especially when we compared it to the Sony X95L, it was like I could fix that for the most part through calibration. I know the average consumer may not go that way, but it was just something that I immediately saw as an enthusiast calibrator. And that's the perspective that I can bring that, say, perhaps the average television reviewer may not be able to bring. I see things that, hey, if you make these settings, you make these changes, you're pretty much going to get what you want and still have the perks. Nonetheless, let's talk about what they have. Okay, they are talking about their new mini LED again. So mini LED is it. This is going to be a mini LED year. If you want to know what the technology and the competing thing will be, it's mini LED. It's not going to be OLED. OLED's going to have its perks and its tweaks. They're going to step it up, but the real competition is going to be mini LED. I'm just putting it out there, and that's why Sony already went ahead to step up in that space, and it is what it is. So nonetheless, they're going to use their ULED X or their UX technology. It combines mini LED zone dimming and a backlight with an LCD panel. That mini LED technology, they're claiming 40,000 backlight zones and 10,000 nits of peak brightness. That's crazy. Okay, now we don't know if each one can be controlled individually. Again, that comes to processing. But hey, just the fact of being able to reach up to 10,000 nits peak brightness is crazy. Okay, the OLEDs right now, 15 to 2,000 nits. And then the current mini LED LCD TVs are 2,000 to 4,000 nits. And their UX would hit 4,000 nits. So what I'm trying to say, the significance of this, and this is what people need to understand. Let's say that Hisense is able to actually hit 10,000 nits, right? I don't care if it's vivid mode, dynamic, I don't care, whatever. They hit it. That means that you could comfortably enjoy 5,000 nits of brightness without blooming, without clipping, without blowing out the highlights, which will, on a mini LED TV, also improve its, as I mentioned, blooming. You're going to have less of it, and you're still going to get that brightness and that pop that can counteract very well, or should I say maybe very bad, maybe you take whichever one you want to use, sunlit rooms. You're going to get that oomph, but you can stay within accuracy. You can stay closer to the EOTF curves and not have to step out and have your colors all blown out and everything look crazy. I think it's very great that they're pushing a technology because it allows you to dial back. All right. So anyway, this is what they're pushing. They're also going to use 24V high output mini LEDs. Hisense says it reaches 95% of the BT 2020 color space. 95% of BT 2020 is excellent. Okay, we're not talking about Rec 709. We're talking about BT 2020. That is that HDR color space. So they're claiming it's going to cover that very well. Okay, we're going to see as they perhaps speak more, release more during CES, but as it looks great. Now, we don't know what the resolution is going to be. Also, the peak brightness depends on the complexity of the image due to the limitations of the zone dimming. But I gave that scenario that I mentioned before. Sure, everything may not be 10,000 nits, but I feel like if it does have the capability of hitting 10,000 nits, then we can safely, comfortably, most likely achieve 5,000 nits. Similar to what OLED was doing. Everything with the MLA, talking about 2,000 nits, the second generation QD OLED panels from Samsung Display, talking about they're capable of 2,000 nits. And then in measurements, we were seeing 1,400 nits, 1,500 nits. And so me dialing halfway at 50%, I'm being conservative here. It may be capable of 6,000 or 7,000 nits. So nonetheless, I think this is going to be great. This is what the article essentially said. Example, 2,000 nits, rarely typical. Do not reach that with real content. Nonetheless, it's still going to be brighter and it's still going to be excellent. Hisense, again, this time they're doing 110-inch UX with 8K resolution, over 5,000 zones, and 2,500 nits of peak brightness. They basically have refined this. You're going to see the model known as the 110UX, and we're going to see it at CES. So we'll get some footage. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to show you all this footage. As I mentioned, I'm not going to be in attendance at CES. I'm not this year. That may be something for next year. I will be in attendance at a lot of the other conferences. I just won't be in attendance at CES. And my goal is to get my hands on a lot of this new technology for review. So again, Hisense, if you're listening, your boy over here, Iceman and Bob, Tech and Gaming, is open to reviewing your television. So hey, you got to put it out there to let people know. If you don't say it, they don't know. It is what it is. And I'll get in. Again, I can do calibrations and all that stuff so that you all can see what's what and understand how it's going to look. Okay? With a TV that size and that cheap and their processing, because a lot of people are happy with the U8K, the currently large screen U8K. Basically, I'm just going to round it up and say the 100-inch, right? It's most likely going to outshine, as the article says, TVs from Samsung, Sony, and TCL. All right. Now, TCL is planning on launching a 115-inch mini LED next year. So they're going big. TCL essentially, and I guess before I get into TCL, my recommendations for Hisense right now, if you need a TV right now, U8K, U8K, U8K. U7K is also a recommendation if you can still get your hands on it. If you have to have one, the prices cannot be beat. It's got to give you the best image, the best processing for the price, and it will at least put you in a ballpark. Sure, it's not an A95L. Sure, it's not an S90C or S90D or S95C or S95D or a G3 or a G4 or a M4, but nonetheless, it puts you in the category. It gives you just enough oomph that you can say, I'm getting a good bit of the cream of the crop. Hisense, if they improve their processing, it's going to be even that much closer. And that's what it seems like. They're going to step up on the technology end, which would give them more headroom for the processor. Okay, even if they use the same processor, but you improve the hardware, it still will allow for an overall improvement. So we have yet to see. We'll see what's what. I think this is a great move, especially at the price point. Those are my recommendations. But if you can wait, I'm not sure what the release schedule is, but if you can wait, I would try to get whatever it will be, maybe the U9K, if that's what they're going to call it. If you need this large screen, you can get this 110UX. I would try to wait and see what this is, because it's just going to make your experience that much better. And it's going to be very affordable. I must mention it's going to be very affordable. And they're stepping away from the lack of premium. Obviously, again, it's not on the big top 3 premium brand levels, you will say, in certain aspects. But for what it is, you cannot beat the price point and what you get. And that's what Hisense does. So stay tuned. I'll be on the job once this is actually out here in the wild. Now, as it goes to last but not least, TCL. Let's talk about them. TCL is essentially going to do the same thing. expect similar technology, competing technology from TCL as it relates to Hisense, okay? And that's why I kind of brought their name up in the conversation towards the end of my Hisense conversation with you all. It's for that same reason, okay? They have other products that they're working on. So Hisense is not solely focused on, or I'm sorry, TCL rather is not solely focused on the television space. Okay, they're working on mobile device entertainment solutions, so smartphones and tablets, smart glasses, and other devices. Okay, they also have this NXT paper display technology that's optimized for the human eyes. All right, and then the Ray Neo AR glasses with revolutionary full color 3D heads up display and a powerful AI capabilities will be revealed. What this means is that TCL has processing power, and this is something that I've seen more of a mention over Hisense. So, whereas Hisense is going more with hardware upgrades in 2024, it looks to me that TCL is going more with processor upgrades. And that's a similar route that Sony is going. So it'll be interesting to see, and we can also add LG with their G4 and M4 models, or really all their models across the board. So it's going to be interesting to see how any of this technology is going to work with their television sets. But again, you can expect similar things. Once again, my recommendation will be to wait. If you've made it this far and you're in January, just wait. See what's going to come on, unless you're in dire need for a television set. TCL prices are very competitive, especially around Hisense prices. So just think you're going to get a lot where you'll just get a little bit more of a cleaner image, and that's kind of hard to say. That's what TCL goes for. They give you more of a cleaner image, where Hisense gives you more of a pop. So it's almost like TCL is trying to chase on Sony's foothills, or whatever you want to call it, and Hisense is somewhat chasing on Samsung's foothills. So it's going to be close. It's more of a preference thing. Again, neither one is wrong, but I would hang tight for TCL to see what they actually have and what they're going to come out with if you are a TCL lover, and that's something that you just like to stick with in terms of brands. Once again, once all of this information's out, I will do my best to get my hands on these television sets, and or at least be able to show you the technology. Again, I will calibrate it, and I will give you perspectives from TV watching, streaming, movies, Blu-ray, gaming, all of that. That's one thing that I will be able to provide to you, okay, and for you all. So, TCL, if you're listening, feel free to send me a model to review, and I will kindly do that. So essentially, that's what I have for you all regarding these 2024 TV models. Let me know what you all think. I think it's an excellent thing, and it increases the competition. I feel like this year the prices should be reasonable, minus some of the television brands that are releasing new content in terms of hardware aspects. For instance, like LG with the Zero Connect. That may cost. I don't know what type of cost is in that. That's a question that I would try to ask if I were actually there. I have no problem having an LG rep speak if they're able to speak whenever they're able to speak on that. So LG, hey, let me know. I would be more than happy to let the consumers in the world know what's going on that aspect. But nonetheless, we'll see what's what. I think it's exciting. Again, the number one take home is going to be mini LED. Last year, it was all about the QD OLED competition. This year, it's about mini LED. And it's a win-win across the board, because where some people felt they didn't get that step up in the mini LED level last year in 2023, we're getting it this year. And it just allows us time to catch up and allows consumers options, maybe buy 2023 models from these brands or the 2024. My recommendation at this point is If you can hold out, unless you're in an emergency situation where you have to replace the TV. And if that's the case, please reach out to me if you don't know which TV you would like, and I would help you do the best you can in that particular area. If you can wait, please wait until we get around March and April and May and June. That's when all these TVs should be upon us, at least here in the States, and we'll see where it will be in other countries. Okay. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for taking an hour out of your time. I really do appreciate it. Please like, comment, subscribe if you haven't done so, and share. I thank you for all the support that you all are doing. Thank you for allowing me to crack 1,000 subscribers. I really appreciate it. Thank you for all of you who have supported me in the community, who have recommended my channel, Stop the FOMO, and Brian's Tech Therapy, and Robert Zahn from Value Electronics, and Caleb Dennison, and just all you amazing people out here in the community. There's a lot of support that I've received. D Nice, and there's just so many people in the community. I mean, I could just keep naming, but hey, thank you for the support. Thank you for the love. And most importantly, I thank you, because if it wasn't for you watching my content, I would not be here. So thank you once again. Please let me know what I can do in the comment section. Stay tuned. Again, I will cover some updates once we actually can physically see and or get confirmation of actual specs on some of these models and what these hardware components entail fully, as well as prices. Then I can update recommendations. And then once we actually get them and we can see them and sit down, that's going to be the tall tale sign. Because as you all know, I can show you how for some person, they may not be in the market to buy a flagship TV, but they may be in the market, say, to buy a Hisense. Let's just use the U8K since I brought that up, right? They can get a U8K and then they can get it calibrated and still come out far cheaper than perhaps another brand. And it gives them just that extra oomph. Just that little bit. They may be lacking just a little bit. Or even if you buy a top-notch flagship brand, you still get it calibrated and you have that extra oomph. And I know a lot of people want it calibration ready, but even calibrating, Sony's needed calibration. The A95L, a Master Series, still needed a calibration. You calibrated it all these shootouts across the country. You calibrate them in some of the stores that you're able to purchase from. Hey, it's a win-win. So nonetheless, I understand that. Most of your reviewers, they're not calibrators. They don't understand what that consists, and they don't understand what that brings. It brings a lot to the picture. It keeps you from having to fumble with the remote and set picture settings for this mode and that mode. You just set it and forget it. It's calibrated. It's done. It looks great no matter what you throw at it. I don't touch the picture modes on my television sets. I have Sony, I have LG, I have Samsung in this household. I don't touch it. My wife doesn't touch it. My son doesn't touch it. We don't change anything, right? Because all of our TVs are calibrated by yours truly. So everything looks great no matter what we do. Now, obviously, the game modes will automatically switch over when we're gaming. That's not what I'm talking about. Or maybe you hook up a PC, you know, it may switch or something like that. What I'm saying is that outside of the device switching modes, I don't change the picture mode. The picture modes on all of our TVs are set it and forget it and look absolutely amazing. And there's no desire for any more. Prior to calibration, there was. So please keep this in mind, even as it relates to these 2024 TVs, and we will see what the calibration controls will be as well. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I really hope that you enjoy your day. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Again, please comment, please like, please subscribe, please share. I truly appreciate your support, and I'll be back with another one. Let me know what you would like for me to do a video about. In the meantime, I did put out a poll. So now that I've talked about this, if there's anything else you would like for me to talk about and cover, I have devices, I have resources, I have things, but a lot of times I don't get the same reception necessarily in those particular areas when I cover other things versus television sets. So if there's anything you would like for me to cover in the meantime, please let me know in the comment section, and I'll try to do my best to answer that call. With that being said, God bless y'all. I hope you're enjoying your time. Shout out to my crew, everybody that's over there at CES. You know who you are. Shout out to all of y'all. Stay safe. Enjoy your time there. Looking forward to your content as well when you get back. And we're going to do this thing together on one accord. All right, y'all. Love y'all. I'm out.